Right. Well, I don't know what to say, really. I've just been over to East Yorkshire. That's why I got back a bit late. I was speaking at a meeting, inaugural branch meeting of Winchelsea. Not Winchelsea. What's it called? Group of the BMP, Beverley and Holderness. So we're on the coast, and we had a good meeting this afternoon. About 30 people present, which is pretty good for a small place. I'm going to speak at another meeting tomorrow in the north of England. I won't be more precise in case people listen in for security reasons. And I'm speaking in the Midlands next weekend.
We do actually have some questions for you, Andrew, but first of all, thank you for coming to our room. I'm going to hand you over to Lippy, who will be sort of hosting the room for us this evening.
Okay, well, welcome to the room at last. I've got some questions here, if that's okay with you. So I'll start with the first one. Robert asks, what was it like going to the palace? And did you ever think that you would be drinking tea in a field with the Queen?
It was very pleasant, but it was in a way rather, I won't say disorganised. It wasn't disorganised, but it was fairly unorganised. We went in there and there was really no direction as to where you were supposed to go or what you were supposed to do. We sort of wandered around for the first hour. Then the Queen turned up at 4 o'clock, and we caught a brief glimpse of her by straining and craning our necks, and then she disappeared again at 5 o'clock, and then everybody went home. So I mean, it's nice to have been, and great honour and all the rest of it, but it wasn't particularly eventful, if that's not treasonable. I hope I won't be carted off to the Tower for saying that.
But I hope you're not as well. The next question I have is from Windlestraw. He asks, what does it feel like sitting in the enemy's camp? Do you ever feel uncomfortable by the hostile faces with their hostile views? Do you think you'd feel any different if you was in Westminster?
Actually, I think they feel more uncomfortable with me there than I do with them there. They've had so long where everybody has been saying the same thing, and very few people have broken the consensus. This is particularly so in the committee meetings, but when I speak, people always turn around and listen, and sometimes they look quite shocked and appalled, which whenever I see them looking shocked and appalled, I think I'm doing my job pretty well.
Ray Randall asks, what is the likelihood of an effective nationalist group in the EU Parliament?
Well, we have formed a nationalist alliance. The question is whether or not we're going to get the representatives from 7 different countries, either from the European Parliament or a national parliament or a regional parliament. We seem to be on the verge of doing that at the moment, but it's all a little bit doubtful as to whether people are going to join or not.
We're just carrying on from that question, really. Bertie Burt asks, what is the attitude of other anti-European MPs to the British National Party MPs?
As far as the European, the continental anti-EU parties are concerned, then they're very friendly. Some of them are in the alliance, some of them probably won't join the alliance, but they're all friendly. UKIP, of course, which doesn't really want to get out of the EU, what it wants to do is to stop the BNP from getting out of the EU, is always hostile, and in a very spiteful and childish way. On one occasion, I was destined to sit next to Mr. Button or Batten or whatever his name is, and he noticed this, was obviously horrified. So instead of coming along and moving his own nameplate, he got one of the assistants to come and do that.
Okay. Britain First asks, why isn't Geert Wilders more enamoured to the British National Party?
Well, their party has really come from a different direction. They didn't start off as a nationalist party at all. They started off in a way as a liberal party, and their objection is to Islam, which is clearly illiberal. So they're not really a nationalist party at all. That, on the other hand, it must be said that some of their supporters, certainly their voters, and indeed some of their members, probably are genuine nationalists underneath, but I don't think Wilders is. Nevertheless, he's being prosecuted at the moment, and I stand up for him. I always say he's not somebody I have much sympathy with, but nevertheless, it's I stand up for the rights of free speech for people I don't agree with, as well as those I do agree with.
And the Green Arrow asks, will you be present to support the chairman, Simon Darby, and Tanya Lumley next month at the Royal Courts of Justices? Do you think you'll be able to make it that day?
On the 7th, 8th, I'm in Brussels on the Monday, but I might be able to on the Tuesday.
That's good. I read somewhere that they fine you if you don't turn up when you're supposed to. Is that on every occasion?
If we miss so many of the plenary sessions, those are the full parliamentary sessions, you do lose some of your subsistence allowance. But they don't fine you for not turning up to committees. In fact, one of the things I've been appalled at is the low attendance at some of the committees. I went into a special hearing of my Libe committee the other day, and I arrived about 10 minutes late, and one of the assistants said, "We've been waiting for you to arrive," which I was a bit puzzled by. And then I discovered the reason they were waiting for me to arrive was they had a lot of speakers on the platform and nobody to speak to. I was the only one present.
One more question that I've got on my list from the Green Arrow. The party is going through tough times at the moment. When are we going to see any light at the end of the tunnel?
I think what we've got to do is to find some degree of party unity. Until we can keep the party together, then I don't think we'll see a great deal of success. But once we get over the inability to keep the party together, I'm sure that we will see success. The people are waiting for a united nationalist party.
If anybody wants to ask a question, could you raise your hand and then I'll call you to the mic. And the first question goes to Warsash.
Do you have an opinion on the EDL? They seem to be incredibly well funded. More their leaders would be capable of organising them, and they do seem to be starting to get a more favourable press, in that the press seems to be less hostile to them than they were. And I'm just wondering what you make of the EDL.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a little bit sceptical about them. They seem to be simply opposed to Islam rather than pro-nationalist. They also tend, I think, to be rather partisan on Middle Eastern questions, whereas we in the BNP take no partisan line at all. But nevertheless, they do clearly attract some people who are genuine. As far as their tactics are concerned, then there are dangers that they could be accused of creating public order difficulties, which might then be used to attack us. But I keep an open mind, really. But I'm a skeptic in both directions. I'm a skeptic both of those who would be their complete supporters, but equally those who would be their detractors. I think we must keep an open mind about these things.
Okay, your mic back.
I just want to say thanks for all your hard work for the movement, Mr. Brons. And my question is, during the 2009 European elections, the media gave you a lot of interviews, and I noticed that you were particularly good at dealing with the media. And I just wanted to know, do you have any tips on, how do you deal with the media? How do you combat their attack style?
Yes, I try to be as frank as I can be. I try not to sidestep questions, but to take them head on and answer them, and where necessary, not in an aggressive way, but where necessary, go on the offensive. In some ways, I'm very flattered for your comments. I'm not sort of predicating my answer on the idea that I support your flattery, but it's very kind of you anyway. But I'm not really. It's sometimes very difficult to analyze your own tactics, isn't it? I think in many ways what we do is simply to act in a way that's almost intuitive and instinctive without actually being able to sort of write down the moves that are being taken, if that makes sense.
Robert, your mic.
Hello, Andrew. I'm just like to say that the West Midlands guys have been out today. There's a by-election running on the November 11th, and we actually got the whole ward leafleted in just about 2 hours. So we had enough turnout to. Things are still progressing. Things are still being fought for. It's a tough slog, but I mean, somebody's got to do it. We've got to get the message out there, get the people in the positions where we need them, and it's still going on.
That's great. I mean, that's the thing that heartens me when I hear about BMP people getting back to real work, which is passing our message over to the general public. That's the thing that I'm really concerned. Somebody's mentioned Peter Levy. He's the person who interviewed me twice on Radio Humberside, and although I say it myself, I think he came off rather badly on both occasions.
Well done. Windlestraw, your mic.
Thank you. Hello, Andrew. You've answered half my original question, which was about finding yourself in a hostile environment, where you said that, but on a rather personal note, and with no implication intended, no implication or suggestion about your motives or anything like that. I just wondered, on a personal note, do you feel any kind of moral dilemma about being there as a member of the very organisation that you oppose? Do you not feel a bit like a football supporter wearing a red shirt surrounded by other football supporters with blue shirts, if you know what I'm driving at? In yourself, how do you sort of settle the moral dilemma inside that says that you shouldn't even be there? I maybe haven't said it very well, but you must know what I'm driving at.
No, you've said it very clearly. To continue with your football analogy, I would say that we're not out there wearing the shirts of our enemies. What we're doing is we're playing on the enemy's ground. So if we take the football analogy, we're wearing our own shirts, we're making it quite clear who we are, but we're playing at their ground, and I hope that we'll beat them at their ground. I don't know much about football, but I understand that winning away games are more to your credit than winning home games.
Okay, I just want to pass the mic over to Warsash. If there's anyone else that wants to ask a question, you could type it in the room or put your hand up and come to the mic.
Okay, thank you, Lippy. I asked you, I heard a whisper that you wouldn't be standing in the next European elections. Personally speaking, I hope this isn't true, so could you just enlighten us on that, please? And if you are thinking of standing down, could we somehow persuade you not to? And we'd like to see you there for a second term. And whilst you're, I might as well ask a second question. Will you be visiting Wales during next year? Thank you, Andrew.
Yes, I said when I was selected as a candidate that I would only be standing for one term. I was 62 when I was elected. I'm now 63. So I'll be 67 at the end of my term in 2014. And I've seen older members there, and I'm afraid there's a great deal of a tendency, I think, for people to tail off. Now, I'm a very active member at the moment. I'm confident that I'll remain active for the next 4 years. I'm not confident that I'll want to remain as active as that up to 72. And I think really in 2014, the appropriate thing is to step aside and allow somebody else to take over. My big priority isn't so much who takes over. My big priority is to make sure that we win the seats back, and indeed, if we can, win some more. But I don't think it really matters whether I'm there or somebody else is. I think I'll probably retire then. I won't be standing again.